I'm not crazy. I have no diagnosis, and you didn't tell me you were taking me to a mental institution. At this point, these two individuals, this man and woman, who were all nice, smiles and talk, didn't say a word. Not one word. Not one word. And then they dropped me off in front of this huge ward house. It was like a house, like a giant mansion looking building. And they drove away, and I never saw these two people again. And when I got there, it was odd. For one, when I first got to the facility, everybody there was wearing a headband, a white headband. Some said fox, and others said hound. None of the patients on the ward, which were juveniles, male and female, and adults, male and female alike, all of them mixed together in one house, all had the same bandanas on, and none of them could talk to one another. And I wasn't allowed to talk to any of them, none of the patients. So when I came in for the first 3 weeks, I was told that the house was under games and that I couldn't contact the patients. And so I was in direct contact with nothing but psychiatry staff and counselors. It was all I could talk to for the first 3 weeks I was there. No drugs at this point. No drugs at this point. I had no diagnosis. They had nothing to drug me for. When I first went in, they were under heavy games, going back to where I left off, and they were all wearing the headband. When I went in there, I was not allowed to talk to any of the patients and being completely isolated and just with staff. Now, I knew from the moment that I went into this facility, I was in a deep world of trouble. I could just feel it on my insides. But I knew it wasn't something like I could just jump this wall and run away. Like, I had to, like, play their game. And I did it very well. They were in games, and then finally the games were lifted, and everybody's headbands came off, and then everybody could talk again. And I got to kind of introduce myself with patients, and I got to be involved with some of the programs that were going on on the ward. What I found interesting about this particular facility is that the patients ran the ward, meaning the adults did all the cooking and cleaning, we cleaned everything, we approved passes. It went on a seniority-based level. If you did well and you were doing your program, you gained seniority. And as you gained seniority, you gained responsibility and control over other aspects of the ward. Does that make sense? And there were different committees, and there were all these things that would always get run up to the committee till eventually the doctor, our head doctor, was at the very top of our pyramid. Then it would have the say-all, say-all. So this is how the ward kind of ran. And they would do these programmings where their motto was to tear down and rebuild back up. What we would engage in were called games, and you could only look straight forward. If you wanted to speak or be recognized, you had to stick up your thumb until somebody said you may speak, and then you put it down and speak, but you still could not move from this position. And as this would go on, they would tear into you and just tear you down. Like everything negative about you, everything. And the goal was to completely emotionally break you down as a human being and have you sobbing. Everybody did it. There was a few exceptions of myself and maybe 5 others when I first got there that wouldn't break during games. You'd have to keep going through games continuously until you broke. I didn't break it till after my 4th game. And it's very horrible. Like, it's a horrible thing for anybody to have to start going through. Now, once you've gone through your game, then they start building you. They didn't know where to put me, per se. I had no diagnosis. I have an IQ of 136. I had graduated high school. I kept bugging them about when I was starting college, like they said I was going to be. I ended up with what I now know as a handler. I had my own personal psychologist. I was her only patient, and she was the only person I spoke to. She would come grab me on a daily basis, and she would bring a dog. and she was very nice to me.
A dog?
First. A dog, yes. It was an Australian Shepherd. And she would walk me around the hospital grounds, and mainly we'd walk through the syphilis yards, because that hospital is very old and huge, and they have old graveyards that are overgrown from where the patients died of syphilis in the turn of the 20th century. And now my handler in this facility is telling me I need to stay there till I'm 22. And I don't understand that.
Yeah.
And I started to realize that the time that I'm in this facility is not counting as time served on my books. So I found out really quick that it's almost worth it to me to jump ship, get caught in handcuffs, go get extradited back to San Diego, go in front of the judge. By the time all that is said and done, very close to 45 days. Off with no probation, case closed, I'm done with Napa. Napa doesn't want to let me go. So I'm hanging out, her name was PREZ, and we started spending a lot more time together, and she would take me into Sacramento, and I would go to the state capitol, and I would meet with people in the capitol, different congressmen and representatives, and there'd be other children there too, like me, but not from my facility, but they had their own handler with them as well. And we would do things like go have lunch in Sacramento, where she would drive me in there, and it would be with other kids like me that were politically active and aware of certain political issues, and we'd have to draw up drafts of mock legislation and have luncheons with representatives, and kind of like fake lobbying, I guess you could say. It was like mock lobbying, but for juveniles. And then afterwards, when I would get picked up by PREZ, and we would be driving back into Napa, and sometimes it would continue while I was at Napa until I would crack, is it would be 20 questions of like grilling of like, what color were the curtains? What color was the hair of the person that sat, to your left, 2 seats over? Who in the table was right-handed? Who at the table was left-handed? What color were the napkins? Who didn't use the salad fork? Who used the spoon? Just weird questions, constantly bombarding, like one after another. And if you didn't know, she was mean and like grill it, and it got worse. It progressively would get worse, where like if I didn't know questions, like coming back into Napa, I would be segregated, just be me and Therese, and there would be like just punishment, either verbally or like small shock abuses, and just until eventually you started to remember and calculate everything.